By now, most fans of Aliens are aware of the deleted scene in which Ripley finds Burke inside the LV-426 colony's hive, apparently impregnated with an alien chestburster, begging for help, and given a grenade to use to end his life. For years, though, this scene remained almost as a legend, found within James Cameron's final shooting script, featured in the novelization and in the comic book adaptation Newt's Tale. But it never appeared in the theatrical cut of the film, and not even in the special edition version, which restored many previously removed footage. This scene was filmed, but was cut very early on in post-production. Not until only a few years ago was this scene even made available to view separately as a special feature, when it was included along with a deleted scenes reel on the bonus disc of the Alien Anthology Blu-ray collection. It was ultimately against Cameron's wishes to, for lack of a better way to put it, have this be seen as an official part of the story. Burke's fate would remain up to the audience's interpretation. Perhaps he was brought to the hive to be a host to one of the alien monsters, perhaps he was killed right then and there when attacked in the operations center. It was left ambiguous enough and open enough to speculate as to how exactly the company man, Carter J. Burke, may have spent his final moments. Such speculation is explored in the short stories collection, Bug Hunt, in an entry by David Farland, titled Dark Mother. The story begins after Burke is taken by the xenomorph in operations. He drifts in and out of consciousness. He thinks and dreams about his childhood, about his mother, a cold and calculating woman who turned tricks to make ends meet. He dreamed and remembered his problems with chronic bedwetting. He remembered his mother carrying him out of bed late at night after his accidents. She called him a disgusting little stinky creature. The story develops as Burke regains consciousness and realizes he's being carried by an alien to the hive. An odd thought struck him. Think before you scream. He struggled to breathe, took a mental inventory. He was in the grip of a xenomorph, taller than him and stronger than him. He knew where it was taking him. It carried him as his mother had, and with embarrassment he felt a familiar warmth between his legs. He hadn't wet himself since he was a child, and the thought flashed, the alien thinks I stink. He had no weapons. He'd been forced to flee Ripley and her Marines without one. But his father had taught him, your mind can be a powerful weapon. Burke had nothing to lose, so he spoke cautiously. Wait a minute, he offered. Let's talk about this. His heart pounded, and he waited for an interminable instant to see if the xenomorph would respond. Can you understand me? Are you open to negotiation? The xenomorph stopped running, threw him in the air a little, and turned Burke to face him. It understands me, he thought hopefully. Or is it like a dog that just responds to tone? Without skipping a beat, the creature hissed and pounded him against a plasteel bulkhead, as if he were a baseball bat, and everything went dark. Burke woke to sirens in a fetid room, tensing instantly. He could not move his arms or legs. Think before you scream. He let himself go limp, played dead. He could taste blood in his mouth, and his right cheek felt swollen. He opened his eyes and peered about in the dim light. Brownish-gray material covered the walls, looking for all the world like the interior of an animal's ribcage. He'd once killed a neighbor's dog as a child, and knew those shapes. Other shapes seemed just as organic, but impossible to define. He recognized this place, the atmospheric processing plant, down in its lowest levels, the alien hive. His heart lurched and he tried to move, but his torso, legs, and arms felt stuck in some resinous substance. Everything smelled hot, and the resin had an unidentifiable odor, like human vomit mixed with decay and sex. Around him, he saw the shadowy shapes of other men. They stood encased in resin, frozen, their faces twisted in horror, arms and fingers outstretched. He didn't recognize the closest man. He must have been a settler. There was a gaping hole in the man's chest, where an alien spawn had burst its way out. That's where the rot is coming from. Human carcasses were everywhere, as if plastered one above another. Resin covered him too, only his face was free. He could breathe the fetid air, but could not move. He experimented, tried swiveling his hips. The resin was thick around his legs like cement boots, but the resin felt more viscous next to his body. The outside material had hardened like glue. He tried shaking his head, managed to force the resin back a bit, but could not break free. He experimented with his hands. The casing around his right hand was as hard as stone, but on the left it must have been fresher. It still felt viscous around his fingers. He fought and twisted till he managed to break the thin outer crust. He imagined that if he worked fast enough, he might free an entire arm, then break open the rest of the crust inch by inch. He heard a splat, then spotted movement through a partly obscured archway, saw the head and part of the body of an enormous xenomorph, one that stood at least 15 feet tall. It had a vast abdomen attached to it, taller than a house, longer than a bus, and she had just deposited an enormous white egg onto a pile of crab-like goo. Her abdomen rippled as muscles in it moved, like a piece of worm's gut, and then she lurched forward slightly. Burke recognized that body part, dredged a word from a forgotten biology class. It was an ovipositor, like the ones on a carnivorous wasp or a queen termite. A smaller xenomorph came into view, picked up the egg on its little goo pile, and peered toward him. "Wait, no!" Burke shouted, and tried to wriggle his hand. The huge alien mother made a soft growl, peered toward him, as the smaller xenomorph carried it closer to Burke, set it at his feet. Burke felt scared witless. No plans would come. He tried to wriggle aside, to break his casing. He fought to free his hand, but the xenomorph hissed and lashed its bony tail, and then thrust its teeth in his face. "Calm down," Burke said. "I get it. You don't want me to move." Yet, he couldn't just sit there. The xenomorph backed away, watching him. Above its shoulders, dead men peered down, and Burke suddenly remembered a huge nativity scene that his mother had put up one Christmas. It had Mary and Joseph peering down at a baby Jesus in a cradle, while the wise men stared on and angels flew above. In this scene, Burke was Joseph, and the baby Jesus was an egg with one of those creatures, a facehugger, inside. The hovering angels were horrid corpses, and once the egg hatched, the vaguely crab-like creature would climb to his face, insert a tube down his throat, and plant some kind of embryo. "Look," he begged the xenomorph. The worker peered at him ignorantly, but the queen in the other room turned her head as if studying his gaze. Her face was rigid, chiseled, and sculpted, and he saw his mother's calculating, unfeeling gaze behind those eyes. "What do you want?" he called to her. The room was hot, fires were already blazing. This whole place was going to go up in a mushroom cloud, he knew. "I work for WEYLAND YUTANI Corporation. I can get you anything. What do you want? A new world? You want cows to eat? People? I can get them for you." The Queen Mother peered at him as if trying to decipher what he said, then turned away as she pooped another egg. Burke felt sweaty all over, had huge rivulets running down his face. He felt sick to his stomach and choked on vomit. The egg in front of him began to quiver and shake, and a crack appeared. His heart hammered wildly, and his mouth felt drier than he'd ever imagined, drier than the toxic sands of Gobi. He struggled to break free, rocking wildly, and the xenomorph drone hissed a warning. He rocked and screamed until he could not move, and suddenly became aware that sometime in the past minute, he'd fallen back to sleep. His skull felt mushy and back. Concussion, he thought, as he struggled to regain consciousness. He was locked in amber, peering down at the egg once again. Everything was off. The facehugger had been coming for him, but now it seemed to still be in the egg. He realized that he had been dreaming. Yet, the drone xenomorph was still watching him. "Screw you," he shouted as the facehugger oozed from its shell, a beige nightmare. The xenomorph drone hissed encouragement to the facehugger, then peered up in satisfaction, like a midwife caught in the throes of admiring the miracle of birth. "Screw all of you," Burke shouted. "That ain't no baby Jesus, and I ain't no loser." He raged and struggled for one moment. Think before you scream. There's still a way to turn this around, he realized. He'd hoped to smuggle one of these things off-planet inside Ripley and Newt. It will still work, he realized. This creature could be a gold mine. If he carried one inside him, he get on the ship, put himself in stasis, and leave instructions for those who found him. All he lacked was time. The whole processing plant was going to blow soon. He'd need to break free after the attack and get out before the creature ate him from the inside. All too soon, the creature leapt at him, covered his face with its soft, crab-like body, and tried to insert something down his throat. Burke struggled to keep his teeth clenched, to twist his face aside, but realized that every second he fought was another second wasted. "Swallow it down," he told himself. "Just take it." He had to do it, even though he was screaming inside. He opened his mouth wide and let the facehugger do its work. Oh God, what have I done? But it was his only chance. He didn't have a gun, nothing to even the odds. He didn't have the strength to break free. He couldn't breathe. He fought the creature for a breath, but couldn't get air. His face and muscles all strained and began to burn, as if he were drowning. "Just take it," he told himself. Burke woke to blaring sirens with a throat rubbed raw. The room had grown blistering, and sweat poured from him. Too much sweat. It was in his clothes, encasing him beneath the cocoon. He felt wrung out, at the end of his strength. Through the narrow corridors, he could no longer see the xenomorph worker, nor the queen. Sirens blared and fires raged. A female computerized voice warned, "Attention, emergency. All personnel must evacuate immediately. You now have 15 minutes to reach minimum safe distance." Shit, Burke wondered. How long was I out for? 15 minutes. Would I have time to escape? Even if he ran as fast as he could, he wouldn't make it outside the blast zone. He needed a vehicle. Even a wheeled excursion vehicle might do. A ship would be best. He thrust his left arm against the resin, banging it with the heel of his palm. The outer crust cracked reluctantly, and he managed to reach around. By punching the crust above his right hand, he damaged the resin, but he felt weak. The material around his legs and torso had hardened while he slept, locking his body into place. Worst of all, he had a stomach ache. Not the normal pain of bloating or heartburn, but something he'd never imagined. He felt the creature inside him, down in his guts, like a huge fish in a bowl swimming about. Terror lanced through him, cold and shocking, so that he was nearly mindless. He knew what was coming. He pounded the resin until his left fist was bloody, pulpy, and raw, and could still not break through. He pummeled until his head dropped in fatigue. A rest. He tried to catch his breath. He awoke again. Sirens continued to blare, and the computer now warned that Burke had 13 minutes to reach safety. In the distance, xenomorphs shrieked in pain and rage. The hissing of a flamethrower sounded nearby. Someone was fighting. The Marines? For an instant, Burke imagined himself being a hero. With a sudden burst of energy, he broke from his resinous casing, staggered into a hallway, and saw the queen alien rushing toward him. He stared into dark eyes that seemed not to reflect firelight so much as drink it in. His mother's eyes. His mother's chiseled, emotionless face, with skin thinly stretched over a skull. The alien morphed into his mother. She said in an echoing voice, "You're free." He realized that he could make it to the ship. He had to. So he began to jog, his path lit by a trail of flares that burned among the twists and turns of the hive. Something wretched inside him, and he felt terribly hungry. The chestburster was draining his energy, depleting it. Burke ran for a bit, reached an elevator. He hit the call button, but no elevator dropped. Instead, sirens blared. 7 minutes to reach minimum safe distance. He struggled to catch his breath, and realized at last that the lift wasn't coming. Fire vented up from a nearby crevasse, and lightning arced between two pillars. Some metal beams fell nearby, and the station shuddered. The plant was coming apart. Burke hurried to the emergency stairs and began to climb up. In the stairwell above, he heard clawing footsteps on the roof, and the screams of the hive mother. Something was going on, and he could not imagine what was happening. The building shook, and more flames shot up beside the open staircase. He reached the top of the landing platform as the mechanized voice called, 2 minutes to reach minimum safe distance. Burke gazed up to see the blunt shape of the space shuttle lifting off into the clouds, the fires of its engines gleaming bright in the half-light. Flames shot up around the platform, impossibly hot, and lightning arced into the sky in a bright crown. The whole platform trembled as if it would teeter and fall into a fiery pit. Burke reached to his aching head, mussed his hair, and peered about in frustration. Something moved inside him, pushing out his ribs like a baby on steroids, kicking. I have become a dark mother, he realized, bearing life inside me. No different from the alien or my own dark mother. Fires vented from a dozen shafts nearby, billowing soot and smoke. The last of his hopes flew away with the ship. 1 minute to reach minimum safe distance, the computer announced, and something within him lurched. Burke shook his head, wondering. Is there life after death? Do I get another chance? Or am I just going straight to hell? He wondered how many billions of people had asked that question in their final moment. He dropped to his knees, too weary to flee anymore, and gave birth. The alien ripped from his chest. Blood and fluids gushed out with it, his guts and stomach spilling out into the metal floor like afterbirth. Miraculously, the creature seemed to have missed ripping out his heart and lungs. It just left a gaping hole, and lay there, its skin looking almost red in the firelight. It made a tiny growl and peered around. Burke slumped to his side, felt his heart weakening, the blood and life pouring out. His breathing slowed until he had no more energy. He blinked and found himself awakening to see a facehugger still crawling toward him. The ground shook, and he realized, this place is going to blow. Sometimes we can wake from dark dreams into a deeper nightmare. The primary reason for the Burke cocoon scene being cut was due to the timing of the alien life cycle. Cameron eventually argued against himself by determining that the time it would take for Burke to be captured, brought to the hive, facehugged, and impregnated simply didn't properly sync with the timeline of the film's events. As we learn in the conclusion of Dark Mother, Burke actually isn't impregnated, and is only alive long enough to witness a facehugger ready to attack before the colony is destroyed. The rest had just been his dark dreams. It should be noted, however, that the original publications of Bug Hunt included an apparent earlier draft of Dark Mother, where Burke's violent death and chest bursting are to be taken as reality, though this version actually may not have been intended to be released and was included by accident. This version unintentionally includes what appear to be editor's notes, making the exact argument regarding the life cycle timing. Subsequent publications of Bug Hunt have fixed these accidental inclusions, and include the truly intended ending, which features the final twist. It should also be noted, however, that Bug Hunt is preceded by a friendly warning that the stories within are more for entertainment, more to be seen as what-if stories, and not necessarily to be taken as concrete canon within the universe. So, despite the depictions within this story, it would remain that Burke's fate is up to our imaginations. But I'd like to know what you feel that fate should be. Is the deleted scene enough to accept as sort of a headcanon? Is getting cocooned, impregnated, but spared the terrible birth of the alien embryo with a grenade suitable enough? Does the story of Dark Mother, leaving him alone with his thoughts, fears, and nightmares, punish the character enough? Could the story's original ending, where he does suffer the fate of having the alien burst through his chest, seem like a fitting enough end? Comment below and let me know what you think. As always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and you can also subscribe for all the latest videos from the channel. A very, very special thanks goes out to WEYLAND YUTANI executives, EmYarUk, Mark Fox, and in the Ellen Ripley tier of excellence, Lady Anne. My thanks also goes out to the Hive Queens, Ronni, Jensen, Alyssane, and Jackson roesch, all part of the Patreon Hive. If you'd like to join the Hive and support the channel, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. In the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow @alien_theory on Twitter and @alientheoryyt on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.